All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. This is your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Guys, I'm joined today by a young lady. She is a young lady. She's a woman, but she's with the Riley Gaines Leadership Institute. She's going to talk to us about some of the prejudice, I guess you would say, that conservative women are experiencing, not just on college campuses, but athletics as well. So Olivia Krochek, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay, so we were just talking briefly before we began recording here, and already my jaw dropped, Olivia, because your generation is experiencing, I believe, just the I don't even know I don't even know what to say. But you guys, basically, my generation, I think I'm Generation X, and I feel like I've been fighting against the commies for at least a decade now, over a decade, being in radio, media, so on, et cetera, getting involved politically and all this kind of stuff. But I can tell you, Olivia, that when I started out, I was always projecting of worst case scenarios, like playing out the worst case scenarios. And I got to be honest with you, kind of thinking, I'm not sure that this would ever happen, but worst case scenario, if we carry these ideologies out from the left, this is what could happen. And now we're experiencing that. You talk to me about this. You said are you attending the University of Cincinnati? Were you attending the University of Cincinnati?
Yeah, so that's all up in the air at the moment. But I was or am still a student at University of Cincinnati, and I'm a chemistry major. And I actually have experienced this prejudice myself, experienced these leftist indoctrination tactics myself. I was failed for using the term biological woman while talking about men and women's sports in a DEI required course as a chemistry major. So I have firsthand experience as to what it's like as a student, as a kid, young adult now. Okay,
so all right, I want to just stop you right there. Okay, University of Cincinnati. I'm assuming this is obviously this is Ohio. Mm-hmm. Just last week, I was sat in for nationally syndicated host Mike Gallagher. Also did a podcast on it. And in Ohio, you have a super majority of Republicans. I think what frustrates me is hearing stories like this in red states. Ohio gets a pass. I've heard for years. I didn't even realize this was the case until last week, Olivia. But I got to tell you, Ohio gets a pass of being this purple state that is trended red or a blue state that is trended blue. In actuality, for at least the last 15 years, it has been a deep red state that acts like it's blue. I mean, you guys have like a 73.23%, I believe, super majority, between the House and the state Senate. And it's absolutely insane. The fact that the University of Cincinnati in the first place, I'm sorry, because I'm just on a rant. I am so tired of reading these stories. It's making me mad. The fact that they even have a mandatory DEI course is insane. And then I want to ask you this, Olivia. When you say that they failed you, I mean, are you talking about that one particular course? What specifically?
So we had a project about feminism, which is the kicker. It's about feminism, but I couldn't say what a woman was. So we could choose any topic we wanted to for this project. So I wrote about men and women's sports. And in doing so, I used the term biological woman, which I know is redundant, but I was kind of playing their game to not get in trouble. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. And so my professor messaged me and said, Olivia, this is solid work, but the term biological woman is transphobic, hateful, and contributes to heteronormativity, and gave me a 0%. And this project was worth half of my grade in that class. So therefore, my grade was an F.
Was your professor a male or a female?
I don't.
If you don't want to share that, that's fine. That's fine. No, I understand.
I actually don't know because it went by they them, and I've never met this professor because.
Oh, really? Okay. And okay, I'm guessing, and I would say this: if your professor goes by they them, they're commies. So it's this is absolute insanity. So you were writing on basically feminism, or what a woman was, biological woman. It was a feminism course, but you're not allowed to say the words biological woman.
Right.
Guys, listen, we have to understand. I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. I live in the state of Florida. It wasn't always this way, but Governor Ron DeSantis is an absolute juggernaut. He gets ahead of these lefties. He drives them crazy. I absolutely love it. We have knocked this crap out in our school system. We're still working on it a little bit, but for the most part, we've knocked it out. This has to happen in every single red state. You also participated in athletics. You ran cross country and track for a while. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I ran cross country and track for about 10 years throughout middle school, junior high, high school, and a little bit in college before an injury. And it just blows my mind to see what is happening today with, boys who are competing in the girls' side of the track events and winning by 4 inches in the high jump, which is insane. If you know anything about high jump, 4 inches beating everyone else is a crazy amount. And he won. And then if he were competing in the boys category, he would have placed like 27th. So as a runner, as an ex-athlete, I know the amount of work and dedication that goes into these sports, especially running, especially swimming, things like that. And the slowest boy was still faster than the fastest girl in state. So it's crazy to see these boys or these men who are just, being told, yeah, it's okay to compete in the women's category. There's no issues with that. And there was actually an article posted by it was the Harvard Crimson the other day saying there are many issues facing women's sports today, but trans aren't one of them. And I read
What?
this article, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's like the leading issue in women's sports.
No
So I
doubt.
think you're wrong. And they were saying in this article that science doesn't say there's biological advantages but by trans women. I'm like, so you mean men? You're saying men don't have a biological advantage? I can tell you right now that's wrong. So it's just crazy to see people just feeding into this.
And I gotta say this, Olivia, at the risk of sounding like a chauvinist. I'll be honest with you. I used to play sports. I used to play basketball, baseball. I ran track. So obviously, you're right. Everybody with a modicum of common sense, they understand that you're right. But most people, unfortunately, when it comes to this trans movement, are absolute cowards, and that's what we're seeing. And I don't understand why a lot of people are buying into. I know there are people that are legitimately gender dysphoric, that suffer with this mental disorder, but and then you have a bunch of social contagion. I gotta ask you. Or actually, let me say the chauvinist part. Here's the chauvinist part. The WNBA. All right, you don't have to comment on this, but it's one of the reasons I always forget that it exists. Because for one, there's a bunch of lesbians in it, a bunch of lesbians that try to act like men, but the game is never going to be as good as a man's game just because they're female. I love female college basketball much more because there's that camaraderie of the college and colleges, the rivalries, all of that kind of good stuff. There's tons of female sports that I like. Actually, the vast majority of them that I do, except for basketball. It's the weirdest thing, and I know I sound like a chauvinist there, but the truth of the matter is that is a game where I like to see dunking. I like to see 3-pointers where I think 3-pointers should be, so on, etc. And it's only because I know that women can't produce the type of level of play that men can. However, when it's women against women, and I know WNBA is, but in college sports and other professional sports, I mean, softball, tennis, you name it. I could watch any other female sport, and I think it's amazing. Track, I love track and field is my favorite when it comes to sports, both male and female. But this is common sense. I got to ask you this: where were there any men that stood up for you? Are you seeing any men, any women that are standing with you besides Riley Gaines Leadership Institute that came alongside you either in school, in athletics, and said, "Wait, this is wrong"? Or is there anyone standing up for people like you?
There are people. This is awkward to say it, cowardly standing up. So they will behind closed doors support me. they will message me on their hidden account saying, we support you, but I can't say anything because I might lose my job. So there are people who agree with me, but people who are too afraid to say anything. And that's the problem. People are too afraid to say anything. So now we've got a 20-year-old girl who's going across the country telling people that actually men aren't women, which is crazy. I'm 20 years old. That's not what I should be doing. I should be in class right now. And some other adult should be doing this. So yeah, people are supportive, but they are not standing up for me. They are not standing up for people because they're too afraid of losing their jobs. A couple of days ago, or I think it was almost 2 weeks ago now, but I was at the University of Georgia NCAA swim and dive finals for women. And I was interviewing people just on the street, the woman on the street videos. And I go up to one of these coaches and I ask him some questions. And then I get to like, should men be allowed in women's sports? He realized like where these questions were going. He was like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like, please, no, thank you. And I was like, okay, I understand. He's like, no, please, this is so scary. You don't understand. And he's literally like shaking in the video. He's like, please don't, like, I cannot lose my job. Please don't use this. And I'm like, you're a grown man. You're a coach of a women's team and you can't even stand up for your swimmers saying that a man shouldn't be competing against them. I mean, what a coward. It's just, I understand that he's afraid, but you can't be too afraid to say the truth, the basic truth.
And again, I'm speaking with my guest, Olivia Krochek, and we'll get into more. She's literally been banned for TikTok. She failed a course at the University of Cincinnati, a deep red state, by the way, a state that is run by Republicans who are completely feckless and do absolutely nothing. Piece of crap Republicans. I say that as a Republican. I'm just so sick and tired. I mean, what's the point of voting for you fools if you aren't going to stand up to people like this? This is absolute nonsense. This is crazy town. Sitting here and pretending like a man can be a woman and vice versa. You're cowardice, you're stupid, or you're mentally ill. I mean, it's really simple to me. These stories just get me hot, Olivia. I can't. It's so frustrating me. My wife and I raised a daughter. Maybe it's just the way that I am. Maybe it's the way that I grew up. I was a little ghetto fabulous. But if I saw a dude trying to compete, my daughter used to play volleyball. If I saw a dude trying to compete with my daughter, I would have tackled his behind on the court. I mean, I would have made, and honestly, I felt like that was the norm. I felt like most men would do that. But now we're living in a society where I just feel like you're right. Like that coach, he's so concerned about losing his paycheck. And I get it. If you have, that's how the left wins. I mean, they will control you with the paycheck. But I'm like, dude, maybe it's time to find another job. And it's amazing. Like you said, this guy literally is. Did you say he's the coach of a female swim team?
Mm-hmm.
And yet he refused to ask the question?
Yeah. We are just living in a time where these young men today have lower testosterone than the 70-year-old men in the world today. And I think that's part of the problem, but TikTok is also part of the problem. You briefly mentioned my banned history on TikTok. I have been banned 5 times on TikTok for hate speech.
What did the hate speech include? What did the hate speech, quote unquote, include?
Apparently, hate speech includes me posting a video saying that my professor failed me for saying biological woman. Apparently, hate speech includes me saying that men shouldn't be in women's sports. So yeah, I keep getting banned. I've been banned 5 times on TikTok for hate speech and violence, actually, which is kind of crazy that saying my professor failed me is violence. So we know that TikTok is obviously ran by China, and obviously China's going to want America to be as weak as possible. And they are being very successful in doing that. These men and women, actually young men and women, are just being influenced by TikTok. They are being told what's normal, what's fine. Like kids, when we watch TikTok, we want to fit in. Not me, obviously, but the majority of like young women, they see these videos and they're like, oh, maybe I should agree with that. Or I don't want to say anything against that because then I'll get banned or then I'll get in trouble and my friends won't like me. So they're going to conform to these ideologies that are posted on TikTok. And I think I saw a study a couple of days ago. It was 67% of young women get their news from TikTok.
Yes, I saw that. Insane.
Mm-hmm.
That was honestly hard to believe, and you're absolutely right. I look at the social contagion, and my generation, obviously, we got onto social media, but we didn't grow up with it. I mean, we went outside, we introduced ourselves to people. If we didn't have friends, and we were concerned about what our families thought, what our church communities may have thought, what God thought about us. But not necessarily. And listen, and all of us have struggled with this in some way, shape, or form. But the truth of the matter is, with social media being the juggernaut that it is, I mean, you're right. Kids are being influenced. Young women, young men are being influenced by social media, and it absolutely isn't real. If they put their phones down, the people that are going to influence them the most are the people, and they care about them the most, are going to be the people that are inside of their immediate circle. So I definitely feel for your generation as far as that's concerned. Let me ask you this question, because it is sad but rare. The reason why you're on a podcast like mine is that it's rare to find young people like you. Were you raised to stand up for constitutional conservative values? Are you a believer? Are you a person of faith? Where do you get this strength from?
I get my strength from my faith. I don't think I was necessarily influenced by my parents. My parents did an amazing job at raising me, clearly, but I might be a little biased with that. But
Clearly.
they never had to sit me down and like tell me that a man isn't a woman. I think that's just common sense, and I'm lucky enough to have that because the majority of people don't anymore. So they didn't even have to like drill these things into me. They didn't have to say men shouldn't be in women's sports, things like that, because it's just common sense. And I learned it in fourth grade along with the rest of the world. Unfortunately, they're trying to change what people are learning in fourth grade and say that sex is a spectrum, which is once again going to destroy the future of our society even more. But I will say that when this all happened with my professor, as silly as it may sound, I had like a moment where I realized, you know what, God put me in this position for a reason. This happened to me for a reason, because
Wow.
he knew that I could stand up and say something, which is kind of funny because I think like 5 years ago in my high school speech class, I ran out of the room crying after I gave a 2-minute speech to my friends. So
Wow.
it's crazy to see me like standing up in front of rooms of people and telling them, all these different things in public speaking. It's like my worst nightmare. But he knew that I could do it, and that's what keeps me going right now.
That's an amazing testimony. I absolutely love that. And in particular, I was speaking about your courage. I mean, you seem to be fearless. It's cool that you shared that story, but I'm like, okay, where did this courage come from? Because that is lacking in many people in the culture, and not just young adults like yourself. But obviously with people that are my age and even older. I mean, into the boomer generation, where you have a bunch of emasculated men. I mean, it's insane. And females that'll fall for this stuff, like the University of South Carolina female basketball coach. I forget her name, but I know she played in the WNBA. But when she said that, yeah, she was okay basically with men pretending to be women playing in her sport, I'm like, it's pretty convenient to say you have a high paying job, right? You're pretty popular. You've got endorsements. I've seen her in commercials. So she's obviously making money. She doesn't want to lose that gravy train. But I'm like, I don't even believe you, because you wouldn't be where you were at, were men playing in your sport. All right. So I have a question. Obviously, you're a young woman. You're an attractive young woman. How do men in college react to girls like you today? I mean, do men even come up to? I mean, I'm not a pervert. I'm genuinely curious. I'm like, back in my day, we was straight up Mac. We saw a girl like you. Oh man, I want to get her number. Maybe I'm too old. Is that foolish of me to even ask? Do you still see that? Do men still court? Young men still court young ladies like yourself? Or do you see an issue with that even in today's culture? Because I feel like young men are being so emasculated.
That's a funny question. For me, I think like if I'm on my campus, everyone hates me on my campus, so no one's gonna come up to me. So I
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, you can't just say that and stop there. I mean, what? Okay, break that down for me. What do you mean? I mean,
well,
people know you because you stood up, or what? What
yes.
does that mean?
Exactly. I've gotten threats from so many different people, probably hundreds of people at this point. Like, don't show up on campus. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna chase you. I'm gonna stab you. I'm like, okay,
What?
do it. Well, we'll see what happens. And they threaten to come up and show up at my house, and they tell me to sleep with one eye open. I'm like, okay, I will. And so most people on my campus don't like me, but yeah, there definitely is a problem with the whole masculine feminine relationship. Masculine men don't exist anymore, at least not a lot of them. I think I have like the one that's left. Been dating him for 4 years, so thankful for that. But the rest of them that are in school right now, they're dressing like they're girls, wearing dresses like Harry Styles. It's just honestly embarrassing. Like I get secondhand embarrassment when I see that, but that's just me. And then the girls, they're dressing masculine. They're cutting off their breasts, like they're trying to be men, and it's just completely flip flop, and we have completely lost like the traditional values and just like the traditional like I guess they are stereotypes, I guess, but like the traditional roles of men and women, and I think that's having an effect on our family life as well, because we're not going to have that traditional family value anymore in the future in years to come, because there aren't going to be masculine dads and feminine moms. They're going to be mom CEOs and dads who stay at home, and it's just completely flip flop.
Man, and that is so true. And honestly, it's communism. It's what they do. I mean, they want to the left, they want to depopulate the earth. They don't want men and women getting married. They believe this nonsense. They want unlimited abortion. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. The whole climate change, man-made climate change hoax, all of this stuff is communism. All of it is about depopulation, and they get people to subscribe to one particular tribe or the other, and then they tell them or those tribes that people like you, people like I, or like me rather, hate them, and then they'll be their champions, and that's how they continue to win power, all the while advancing their agenda. It's absolutely scary where we are. What would you say to young girls that are out there? Perhaps they're in a position like you are, or they can see it coming down the road. If they were to speak up, and again, you've been banned from TikTok, you're getting threats. I hope you sue the crap out of the University of Cincinnati. Let me just say that I hope you sue the freaking crap out of them. I hope you become a gazillionaire. I hope you get more television spots. I hope that you sue Mike DeWine. I don't even know if it's possible, but if it is, I hope you find out, because I'm so tired of. We can stop this nonsense, at least in our states. You shouldn't have to be subjected to this type of nonsense in a deep red state like Ohio. It's just baffling to me.
Yeah, yeah. But what I would say to young girls and women and moms and grandmas, literally any female out there, don't be afraid to stand up. It sounds so basic. Like, that's like what everyone would say as advice. Don't be afraid to stand up. But it's so true. Like, don't be afraid, because someone is there to back you up, whether it's me, whether it's Riley, the Riley Gaines Center. There are some conservatives out there who will actually help you. And that's what I experienced. I stood up, I got bullied, I got, pretty much outed from all of my friend groups. I lost all but one of my friends, which was kind of sad.
Wow.
But I'm fine because Riley stepped in. Riley helped me. I've joined the Riley Gaines Center as an ambassador. I have, traveled the country speaking to other young women who are experiencing similar things to me, who just haven't stood up yet. And I'm trying to convince them to stand up. And we have had a couple instances where these girls, they realize, hey, I have someone backing me up. Here's what just happened. Can you help me with it? And we're gonna figure it out together. Because the problem is, if everyone stays silent, if everyone's too afraid, we are not going to have strength in numbers, which is what we need. Because the left is such a small minority, but they are so loud. We hear that all the time. They are. And it's kind of annoying. I'm deaf and I can still hear them. So we all need to stand up in numbers for sure.
Okay, so you said something that was absolutely spot on. And again, I'm speaking with my guest Olivia Krochek of the Riley Gaines Leadership Institute, or Riley Gaines Center. And I mean, she has experienced cancel culture. She's received a failing grade at the University of Cincinnati for simply saying that a female or what was it, a biological man is a biological man, and apparently that's hate speech. We all know it's not. But you said something that I think is so important for everyone to hear, Olivia, and that is the truth of the matter is most people think like you and I, but most people are cowards.
Mhm.
And that's the one thing that I've learned. I mean, as a conservative that have been fighting back, that's been fighting back against the left for quite some time, at least locally, and then now getting more of a national type spotlight. It's like what I realize is I'm like, yeah, let's do this, and then you run into the people that you thought were on your team, and they're like, well, let's do this. Let's compromise here and let's go. And I'm like, no, the left never compromises. That's why they win. They
Mhm.
never compromise their values. We do it all the time. Just a couple more questions here. Speak to us about cancel culture in general. Your thoughts on that, and you touched on it a little bit. But when you're on college university campuses, I'm curious what professors and other students think in general about motherhood. I mean, if you were studying chemistry at the University of Cincinnati, are women really are they looked down upon if they're like, you know what, I'm going to get a degree here, but I'm probably going to get married, I'm probably going to have kids, and you know what, yeah, I can always fall back on my degree. How would that go over?
Yeah, going back to the cancel culture thing, it only works if you let it work to yourself. They tried to cancel me, didn't work. It probably will never work. But going into like the traditional values that we should have of wanting to start a family and raise that family, it has decreased so much. I think everyone everywhere knows that I think it's the age for wanting to have children has been pushed so far back, and your biological clock is ticking, man. But women now, they are being told in schools. I mean, I've been told in schools that you're going to have a happier life or more successful life if you become the CEO of a company. If you go
Man.
to school, if you get a higher education, you get your master's and PhD, like that's what you're being told. You're being told education and a business job is the way to go, and to put the family on hold because that doesn't matter. When in reality, that's what not what women are for, but you know what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
the traditional role of a woman to raise her family, and I
Well,
think
that's the
that's
way God made you. I mean, it's
yeah,
common sense. A society dies if women refuse to be women. I mean,
exactly.
it's really as simple as that. These guys are absolute morons. And then to tell people or to tell young women, listen, you're never gonna. It's so funny because I've been a small business owner for quite some time. I started doing my own thing at a very young age. I just have that type of mindset, and I can tell you, even right now, I probably shouldn't say this in case they ever peek it out, but I will. I mean, I'm surrounded by women that are middle aged of the left that are alone, and these ladies are frankly going to die alone. Because I guarantee you, they bought into all of the nonsense that these institutions teach them. I remember speaking to a woman that was very successful, very wealthy, and that is the one thing that she said is that she kind of regrets now not finding a mate earlier in life. And now she just felt like she was just kind of,
Mhm.
too old. She didn't know if a guy would want her. And even if a guy did, she was so used to doing her own thing, she didn't know that she could adjust. And I'm
Yeah,
sitting there thinking, she big time liberal, all this kind of stuff. But just the realities of life eventually hit.
yeah, definitely women now, they are not settling down. Meanwhile, I'm over here like, okay, when can we start having kids? Like, I'm excited for it. That's something I'm excited for. I want to have like 5 kids minimum, grow up on, have some land,
Man.
play outside with the kids. Nobody wants that anymore. And these women, they either can't have kids because they got the COVID jab, or they just don't want it because they were fed lies by the left and by their education. And it is really sad to see. I do wonder what's going to happen with the population. I think we're already seeing a decrease in population, but I think it's going to get really bad with my generation, because my
Yeah.
generation is so far gone, unfortunately. So there are only a few of us left who have traditional values, who have faith, who have, goals in life that don't involve just becoming a CEO of a business.
Man. And quite frankly, I think, the longer or the more conservative young women step up like you, young women of faith, I think eventually we beat back the left, but it's going to be a generational fight. I got to tell you that I'm glad you're in it. I'll say this. I don't know who your boyfriend is, but whoever he is, I hope he does marry you. I hope you guys do have plenty of kids. I think he is an extremely blessed man to have you. I mean, you're what we would call a catch, and I mean, you're a beautiful young lady. You're smart, and you're courageous. It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, so God bless you for everything that you're doing. I just encourage you, obviously, to keep up the fight. I know you are. I mean, Riley Gaines has become a juggernaut, and you being a part of that movement is instrumental. God's honest truth, I hope you investigate suing the crap out of the University of Cincinnati, because something like that needs to happen. More attention needs to be drawn to this type of stuff, especially, frankly, in red states where you have cowards like Governor Mike DeWine that won't stand up for women. I mean, even going so far as to buy into this trans nonsense until the legislature, which is a pretty weak legislature, I mean, had to stop them. So it's just insane. But anyway, Olivia Krochek, I really do appreciate you coming on to the podcast today. I pray that, your message spreads far and wide. I pray that you get all the opportunity you could ever want, and that God continues to use you mightily, because I do believe that he's doing that. And I think that you walked into your purpose. Sometimes it just happens that way, and it looks like you've walked into your purpose. So kudos to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, guys, remember to please subscribe to the Carl Jackson Show podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. That includes Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Don't forget to support our sponsors, Mike Lindell at MyPillow.com. Right now has a $25 extravaganza going on. I mean, you can get virtually anything on MyPillow.com for just $25. You may want to hear that, Olivia, because you could go to MyPillow.com and get your mother something for Mother's Day for just $25. All right, so go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio podcast square, enter the name Carl, C-A-R-L. I don't spell it like the commie. Also, you can give them a call at 800-858-0263. And then real quickly, I want to just talk to you about wealth protection research before we close. At the very heart of our democracy lies a principle that we all hold sacred: free speech. Man, good Lord, that's so true. It's the cornerstone that supports every freedom that we cherish. Yet in today's digital age, discussions about our wealth, our rights, and our future are being silenced or overshadowed in mainstream narratives, leaving many feeling voiceless in conversations that are crucial to our financial independence and security. This is where wealth protection research steps in, armed with a mission that's never been more critical. Wealth Protection Research is not a financial advisory firm. They are defenders of free speech, committed to giving a voice to the silence. Wealth Protection Research tirelessly seeks out financial experts. These are the voices that challenge prevailing narratives, especially as we navigate the uncertainties of the 2024 election. Wealth Protection Research has created a 2024 election wealth protection report, close quote. This free report highlights the 3 best ideas for protecting and growing your money heading into the 2024 election. It contains ideas the mainstream media will not touch, and listeners can get it completely free. All you have to do, text the word ideas, IDEAS, to the number 766 to claim your free copy. If you believe in the sanctity of free speech and the importance of financial freedom, then act now. Text ideas, IDEAS, to 76626 to claim your free copy of this 2024 election protection report. It's time to widen the scope of what we're told, to hear the ideas the establishment does not think you can handle, and to take control of our financial destinies. Text ideas to 76626 to claim your free speech. And one of the reasons why the left hates free speech is because they actually don't want to deal with women like Olivia Krochek, because she makes too much freaking sense. They hate that. They cannot beat us in the arena of ideas. So that's why we need courage. So Olivia, again, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you.